Hello and welcome to another review here on Theme Park Worldwide. In this video I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on Magnum XL-200, an aerodynamics hypercoaster located at Cedar Point in Ohio in the United States of America. Now, Magnum XL-200 opened in 1989 and it was the tallest, fastest and steepest roller coaster anywhere in the world. It actually kept that record up until 1994, and that's when the big one opened at Blackpool Pleasure Beach in the United Kingdom. That stole the record from Magnum XL-200 at Cedar Point, but of course it managed to keep that record for that period of time. So it was a very significant ride for Cedar Point, and a lot of people went to the park, of course, to experience what was then the world's tallest, fastest and steepest roller coaster. And to this day, a lot of people still go to that park and absolutely love Magnum XL-200, myself included. I think it's an incredible ride. And before I talk about the experience from onboard the coaster, let's just look at it from an off-ride perspective for a moment. You've got this 205-foot tall mega structure standing there in front of you, and it's beautifully positioned actually towards the rear of Cedar Point. So when you're walking into the park, you can kind of just see it over there in the distance. And of course, you've got other rides such as Top Thrill Dragster, Valraven, that are all much closer towards you. So you just see it in the distance, Magnum XL-200. And of course, the closer you get to it, you see this wonderful view of the lift hill, and it fits in beautifully to the park. Let's just think about it from outside the park as well. Of course, you've got hotel breakers, all of that boardwalk style area that Cedar Point have put in. You get some stunning views from all around there. The water park as well looks straight up towards this coaster. So in terms of the positioning in Cedar Point, that's another big draw point towards this being an absolutely incredible roller coaster. So let's talk about the queue line, the station, and if it's got an overall theme for this ride. So in terms of theming with this, it's pretty much non-existent. It's more, the impressive structure at an amusement park that really makes it. You've got to think, back in 1989, Cedar Point wasn't really about the theming side of things. Of course, they've always liked their sort of old Western frontier style feel what they've got around the park. However, in terms of theming up the coasters heavily, that's something that they still don't really do that much to this day, because it is an amusement park more than a theme park. However, the way that it fits in, it's got this very modern style with this entrance signage. It's got a cattle pen queue line that I'm not a big fan of. I think with how impressive the structure is, the queue line could have been a little bit better for it, and maybe out and back to see more of that lift hill. I'm a firm believer in that if you put a queue line in the right place, it can really build up to the anticipation of thinking, blimey, we're going to be up there in just a minute. So it would be nice if you could see a little bit more of the coaster from the queue line. However, more than makes up for it when you're on board the ride. In terms of the station, bit of a weird one for Magnum XL-200. It's like an open-sided station with a cover across the top. And of course, it's completely different to, say, the big one at Blackpool Pleasure Beach that's fully enclosed in this curved structure. With Magnum XL-200, it's open-sided. You can look across to hotel breakers. You can see Lake Erie. Of course, that's where Cedar Point's located in this lake, So it's stunning. It really is in terms of the positioning of it. And then, of course, you've got the train. So it can run 3 trains on Magnum XL-200, really good throughput, over 2,000 an hour it can get through. And of course, Cedar Point are very well known for their fantastic operations and getting those trains sent out. Love the design of these trains. They were the first ones of that kind, actually, that Arrow built. They went on to put them on the big one and various other hypercoaster models that they went and built. But yeah, the train design, really nice, streamlined, modern style look to them. And of course, that goes to the actual train and how many it seats as well. 36 riders can fit on board one train on Magnum XL-200, 2 people per row, and it's just got a simple lap bar and a seat belt on there. So you're not too restrained in on this. In terms of the sides, they're not sort of up here, you're not sort of restricted having to peek over. Quite low sides as well, so it means you get some great views out towards the rest of Cedar Point and Lake Erie itself. So, of course, you've just been dispatched, or you've all been checked for safety, and you're out climbing towards the lift hill. So you make your way out to the right and start to climb up this 205-foot tall lift hill. And I must say, you get incredible views when you're heading up here. You look out to the left, views all across Steel Vengeance, Gemini, other major rides in the park. And then you look out to the right, you got Hotel Breakers, the Cedar Point Shores water park just underneath you, and then you look out to the right and you can just see out into Lake Erie. Bear in mind, Lake Erie, you know, it's not some tiny lake, it's absolutely huge, you know, so you're climbing up this and it's like you're looking out into nothingness, you know, out to the right hand side, and that's what really makes it. At night, it's got like all white chaser lights going up the side as well. All them little things like that really add to the experience for me. So it's a brilliant night coaster, and the fact that it goes way beyond the boundary of the theme park itself, more towards Lighthouse Point, all the accommodation what they've got. So there's not much lighting out there at all in terms of for a night ride, but yeah, you know, you climb up the lifter, you got all these fantastic views, and of course you then start to make your way down the 194 foot tall drop at a 60-degree angle. This is where Magnum XL-200 reaches its top speed of 72 miles an hour, right at the bottom of that. You know, quite intense at that point. You've gone down this really nice drop, but of course compared to a lot of rides these days, and even a lot of stuff in that park, such as Steel Vengeance, you know, a 60-degree drop might not seem like much. However, it's just right, that drop, if you know what I mean. You know, you get some really nice adrenaline on that, and I just think, imagine, you know, riding that in 1989, nothing else really like it out there in the world. Then people must have been absolutely amazed to have gone on it. And, you know, for me, being a huge fan of Arrow roller coasters, when I got to ride it for the first time a few years ago, I was amazed. I was probably just as amazed as people were back in 1989, because this coaster is incredible. There's just something about it that really makes it a spectacular ride. Following on from that point, you climb up a 157 foot tall camelback hill. Again, you know, you're going more away from the park now, so at night you're pretty much in the dark at this point, which is fantastic, looking out towards Lake Erie. And then it curves to the left and then down into a tunnel. That's something what they've got right on this ride. The tunnels are incredible. Like, there's so many brilliant elements to Magnum XL-200, but there's nothing like going through a tunnel at speed, is there? That's what really makes it for me. And of course, you know, it curves to the left and into that tunnel, and that's what really makes it. From that point, you then come out of the tunnel and up an 80 foot tall hill, and at this point you're just about to approach the turnaround section now, but at this point, you know, you're getting a little bit of airtime on some of these hills as well, that's really making it. Of course, the majority of the airtime's coming a little bit later in the ride, but you know, you're going over these hills, it feels a lot more intense than the big one at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, you know, and I compare it to that because that, of course, opened a few years later. That took the records from this, and it was built by the same company, Aerodynamics. But you know, when you go over the hills on the big one, you just don't feel that much at all, do you? On Magnum, it's completely the opposite. You know, you really do. You know, it's quite floaty, especially on them first few hills. And then towards the end of the ride, that's where it really kicks in, as we'll get to in just a moment. But you go into this turnaround section that's kind of shaped like a pretzel, really, you know, and it's all over like the sand underneath you, the lake off to the side, you know, all trees round at the other side as well. So, you know, you're just in the middle of nowhere, it feels like, at this point, even though you are in this huge amusement park out on this, you know, out on this peninsula. But, you know, you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. Then you go around this turnaround section, and of course at that point you then start on your return journey. Bear in mind, just before that turnaround section as well, you do hit some trim brakes on the ride. So with the trims on Magnum XL, you know, it does affect it before going into that turnaround. You know, it does slow the train down quite a bit. However, towards the end of the ride, it more than makes up for it at that point. So you've got to think, at that point now, you're starting to make that return journey. It's an out and back style layout with Magnum XL-200, and you go actually into another tunnel on that start of the return journey, followed by 7 different airtime hills, 7 in a row, and that is what really makes it. And you think, blimey, it needs them trims really at that point, going over these airtime hills. Absolutely stunning how it goes over them, and you are whipped out of your seats. Like, you know, I'm not talking about the big one, you know, going over them hills, and you want some airtime, you want some more, but you just don't quite get it. With this, you get it all right, you know, them 7 airtime hills. And of course it goes to another tunnel there as well. They've actually put some lighting effects in there that's brilliant, just like flashing lights down the side, adds to it, you know, as you make your way down. looking out over the water park at points as well, that makes it. That's the thing with Magnum XL, it's the positioning of the ride that really adds to it as well. And then of course you come out of that tunnel into the mid-course brake run, which isn't really a mid-course because you're right near the end of the ride. Slows the train down a little bit before heading back over. They've built like another entrance to the park underneath. That was all refurbished a couple of years ago, and that's really nice how the coaster passes back over it and into the brake run itself. So you think it's an action-packed ride in a really nice location with stunning views. It's got plenty of airtime. It's got everything you'd want from that style of coaster. And you've got to think, when it opened in 1989, there wasn't really anything like that. You know, a lot of these bigger coasters had to have inversions, you know, else people would think, well, you know, it doesn't really do much. But what they did with Magnum XL was change that perspective that people had. You know, it was a ride that revolutionized roller coasters, and it started the coaster wars. You know, over the years, these parks would then try to beat those records. Of course, Blackpool wanted to beat it. Then other parks started to get involved. Then Cedar Point and Six Flags, you know, they're all competing against each other. Great for us enthusiasts and the guests who are visiting the park. But in terms of the parks, it must have been a nightmare. You know, unfortunately, we've come to the end really of the coaster wars in terms of going for height and speed records. But, you know, you think about that, all battling against each other, trying different things. Absolutely incredible, it really is. But yeah, I've experienced 3 other Arrow hypercoasters. The big one, of course, at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. I'll be filming reviews for all of these at some point and doing a lot more ride reviews where I sit down and go more into detail. Of course, when I film the vlogs, it's great how, you know, we film it at the parks. However, I can't sit down and go into detail for, you know, 10-15 minutes about the ride, which I can do here. You know, the vlog's more about covering everything, whereas with these I can sit down and go more into detail. Along with that, I've experienced Desperado at Buffalo Bills. That's just on the outskirts of Las Vegas, you know, and I say the outskirts, you literally cross the state line, and you see it there, and then you have to drive for another maybe half hour or so before you get into Las Vegas. But yeah, that's an excellent ride. And also Phantom's Revenge as well. As much as the coaster itself isn't 200 foot tall, the drop is over 200 foot. So that's located at Kennywood. So I'll be filming reviews for all of those at some point here on the channel, along with various other rides. But yeah, in terms of my overall sort of summing this video up, Magnum XL-200 is one of the best Arrow hypercoasters out there. You know, one of the best Arrow coasters ever built. Like, it's brilliant. It's a much better ride in my opinion than the big one at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. That's more about the views and of course seeing the sea when you go down that drop. However, you know, I'll go more into detail about that in another video, but you know, with Magnum XL, it's much better because of the airtime for me. I love airtime so much, and as much as it's got a big trim brake on it, you don't really notice that later on in the ride. You know, yes, it trims it for that turnaround, but later on it doesn't have an impact in the ride experience. But there you go, it's a stunning ride, beautiful location, and a fantastic night ride as well. Them lights on the lift hill really make it. It's a stunning night ride at Cedar Point. But there we go, I would love to know your thoughts and your reviews from Magnum XL-200. Once the tallest, fastest and steepest roller coaster in the world, and still going strong at Cedar Point in Ohio in the United States of America. Let me know your thoughts down below in the video comments, and I'll see you for another review again very soon here on Theme Park Worldwide. That means it's time to cue those credits. See you soon, guys.